and welcome once again to the How Long to Beat podcast. It's Rick coming at you with Alex and Paula, and once again, we've got the lovely boys from Studio Voyager back in, Aaron and Vis, or Vice if we're feeling fancy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right, we're going to depart from the usual format, and we're just going to have a big old talk about the game that these guys just released, What Lies in the Multiverse, available now on Switch and PC, and I think PlayStation and Xbox.
Yeah.
Yes.
PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox, GOG, Epic, I think it was.
Everywhere.
I'm reliably informed there's Vita and WonderSwan ports on the way as well, so keep your eyes out for those. Right? That's right.
That sentence is not allowed for our layers. Talk about this before
pending non-disclosure agreement. So we're just going to jump straight on into talking about the game release, basically everything that's happened since we spoke to you guys 6 months past. And we're going to take a deep dive into the game itself and do an analysis that Alex is going to tell us a bit more about, because that is very much his specialty. I'm along for the ride as much as you guys are, right up until the end, when I will be taking the seat back and hosting this week's edition of the one, the only, the unbeatable Aaron and Vish. You best fucking join in this time.
How long to beat
the game?
They got us again. But actually,
Again.
That went very well. Yeah.
remember, I will be hosting it this time, Rick, right? But that's okay.
Oh, no, right. Fuck. It's all
This
gone to
is-
pot. It's all gone to pot. I got the host wrong. You've not joined in again. For anyone who doesn't remember, 6 months ago, I got very upset because Aaron and Vis didn't join in with How Long to Beat the Game. And I'm just sad now. So
we can do it.
yeah,
We can do it. Like, busy. Okay,
no,
ready.
it's gone.
It's too late. The ship has sailed.
You released the game, well fucking done. Very happy for you.
Oh,
Right,
God.
no, but jokes aside, like, obviously, massive achievement. None of us have got eShop games. Like, that's not a thing that we've ever done. And I suppose what I'd love to start us off with is tell us what's happened between then and now, because obviously there's a process that you've gone through, like, to get that game on the shop. So what have the last 6 months been like? What's the timeline been?
Crying a lot.
I was going to say the same. Oh my god.
Yeah, I suppose, how are you feeling is a good
Well,
first.
people think about us like. Oh my god, I didn't feel like 6 months like at all. How long has the game launched? 2 months ago.
2 months.
Yeah. Probably when last time we spoke, the game was getting ready to launch. To be honest, we were like already finishing everything up. Like we're like around 3/4 of the way of the development, and oh my god, yeah, that Aaron had hope about the future.
Damn.
No, but yeah, it was very difficult, but it was fun. To be honest, it was a very fun way of learning
Right.
things. Okay, trying to be positive here. Don't shame me.
But it's more like, it was fine.
Fine.
It was fine.
Yeah, it was
It
okay.
sure was a thing that happened.
Yeah, I sort of feel like I understand you guys a little bit. Like, I've been in creative fields for a long time, and when you release a big project, or you get it done, there's such a feeling of just like
Emptiness, void.
Yeah.
Like you sigh a sigh of relief rather than
Like-
celebrate.
Yeah, it's a big what now? Like what are we going to do now? Or it was this. How was this meaningful? To be honest, like of course that starts getting filled when people start playing the game and people start talking about the game. To be honest.
yeah, there is that.
Yeah, that came with like a really big sense of euphoria. Like at some points, like watching people play and laugh and enjoying the game, and that was really worth it. But after that ends, like literally, like after the stream ends, I was like, all right, what now? And it's like a drug. And really,
I think the best way to explain it is like getting on a roller coaster, like having a lot of fun, like having a lot of thrills, a lot of scary moments, and just getting off, like very excited. And your parents said, "Okay, we're off. We need to go home now." And it's like, okay, I think it's over. Then I want to.
It's still very joyful. Like I personally have enjoyed a lot of moments after the game launch, but the burnout was very heavy, like really big. So we're just really tired, really fucking tired. So that comes with a price, you know. Like I can't enjoy that much all the things that happens if I'm just so tired, you know.
It's also you're very tired and you try to rest and you don't know what is resting anymore, to be honest, because you get like you get so used to the very stressful thing, very doing stuff, very like we need to check this, we need to check that, when there's nothing and you want to like just sleep for the afternoon. You feel like I should be doing something, or maybe I shouldn't, and you start doing that, and you need to get get used to that feeling of now is the moment to rest. Now is the moment to, I don't know, read a book, play some video games for a chance, and start thinking about making video games for a couple of seconds, to be honest.
Yeah, you know, I feel like that's one of these things we see where there is such a pressure after any type of really creative endeavor to be like, what's next, right? Like, it's like, okay, good job. But then when you drop this, like you've been saying, and you mentioned it in the last time you were here too, this has been a part of your life for years, right?
Years.
And then when you drop it, it's not like you get to go and play it. You've been playing it for ages, right? Like, this is your thing you've done. So it's just like, all right, now you all go enjoy it. And I can imagine there's that sort of feeling of like, oh, what was this all about? Which hopefully today we can answer some of that as we dig into.
It was a crazy ride, like really crazy.
It was a good roller coaster.
Yeah. We sound really bummed out. we started the podcast really heavily, like how we hate our lives. but no, it has to be better. Like it is being a really wild process. Even before and after the launch, like everything, literally everything. And it has been like just 2 months. I feel like we launched the game 2 years ago. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, I can understand that feeling. But I think too, I hope listeners can understand too, like that feeling. If any of them have done any type of creative work, that like this is a pretty natural feeling afterwards, right? That sort of like, you're not actually down, but it's just like, it also feels weird sometimes to just be like, oh yeah, like so super excited about the thing you did. You know what I mean? Like there's like, it's just I did a thing. Okay. Then something I want to ask, because I remember we were laughing about this a little bit, but we wanted to talk sort of like about like, you know, what were some of the things that you had to do even in launching a game? Because, you know, we sort of think about like, okay, well, obviously the game, I guess, has to get accepted somewhere. And like, you know, trailers, which I remember we were talking about the kind of humor of one of your trailers dropping on like the Microsoft Activision acquisition date. Which I just remember talking to you guys, I think, on that day where you were like, wow, which I don't know if that was a bad or a good thing. Because, I mean, hey, that trailer got a lot of views, right? Because wasn't it PlayStation?
I don't know, people say like, hey man, bad marketing is still marketing. Like,
yeah,
that happens.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, I think the most I remember is just the comments are like, is this what PlayStation answer is going to be?
Yes.
This pixel art thing, retro Atari thing, because people love to say Atari for pixel art. I'm like, yes, We are the big thing now.
We are PlayStation.
This is big, way bigger than Blizzard or whatever is going on.
Right. This wasn't like a scheduled drop or anything. This was a specific response.
Yeah.
We have the answer to your questions.
People don't know this, but the trailer was on a USB stick behind a like break in case of emergency.
Yeah.
Call the multiverse guys now.
Amazing. So yeah, what were some of the things, like, I guess to think, like, you had your trailers that would go through. Did you guys do press? Like, what were some of the stuff that you did around the launch of it, I guess?
For the activation, Blizzard was the launch date that was going to get released. It wasn't the launch of the game. Thank God, it wasn't the launch of the game. Yeah. But we did a lot of stuff, to be honest. For especially the trailers, there was like 4 trailers, if you remember correctly. Definitely the launch trailer is the most fun one. The one that has voice acting is so good. I really like that one. And we did a streaming week in our Twitch channel for Studio Voyager, where we talk with the developers so people get to know them. It was very fun, to be honest. We tried to keep the launch date as a special thing for us, more than a big marketing stunt about everything. It was like, let's make this fun and make it very close to the people, because that's how we try to keep things to keep it like, you know what, we love games and we love making games, so we're going to share a little bit of that, about a little bit of that love that we have.
Did you guys have
that was a really fun week, to be honest. Like, very stressful, obviously. Like, there wasn't much work to do in terms of the game. Like, the game has to be ready sometime before the launch. Just if not, it's too risky. If not, so yeah, the game was ready at the time, and we only had to do marketing. But other side, like, literally nobody knew us. So we just said, like, hey, let's do something fun. Like, let's talk with our team. Let people know them, because they're really awesome people. And that was a really fun week, to be honest. It was kind of tiring because there was like 2 streams a day.
Wow. I think Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday were 2 streams, and
we were 8 people. Yeah. So it was exhausting, but it was fun. It was really fun.
Also, a little bit of knowledge about game development, as Vicente said. The games for consoles, you need to get approval from the first party, being PlayStation, Nintendo, or Xbox, or Microsoft, to be honest. They need to get approval of the version that you're uploading to the store. And we did a thing that people noticed, that we have a first day patch. So that means that also need to get approval. So the first day patch needed to be ready at least a week before the launch date, of course. So as game development goes, it wasn't ready. So everything was running around, doing things and all of that. So when the launch date, we didn't have anything to do, and it was very weird because we have been doing a lot of stuff for a 3 months because of the 2 submissions, and then nothing in that week. And I was like, you know what? Why don't we tag? Because we love to, with the team, we love to spend time like in Discord talking, making fun of people, making fun of Visa especially. It's making fun of me, but I don't want to say that.
It was not the way.
So if I like, if we're going to have fun, talk, why don't we stream it and share with the people how much we enjoy talking with people. Make it public. Make it a marketing stunt, of course.
Why not?
Yeah, and it was a really good stress relief. Like,
Yeah.
we were really nervous, so that was just like, all right, let's chill out and make this week like, I don't know,
Yeah.
lighter.
Yeah.
If we haven't done that, I actually haven't know what how we've done with the stress, with the amount of like nervousness that we have for the launch. That was a very good way of like focusing that in something sort of productive. Yeah, because it was a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine you needed something to even take your mind off things for a bit, because like, yeah, you release and it's just like, all right, it's out, now what? Right? Like,
Yeah.
well, speaking of release, so you're sitting at a freaking 80 on OpenCritic, which not too shabby at all. That's just
Oh, really? We reached 80?
Oh yeah, you've been at 80 since like release, pretty much, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last time I checked was like
83.
79, I think.
83% critics recommend. Strong. That's freaking hard as shit on OpenCritic. Like, trust me, as someone who plays a fantasy critic league, that is hard as hell to get. So how was the reception? Like, are you? This is what I'm curious about. Like, are you the kind of guys like where you're looking at all the reviews and stuff, or were you just kind of like, nope.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's especially
Every single one of them.
Yeah. How was that?
It's terrible. It's terrible.
I cannot handle it. I skimmed through it. I was like, oh, they like the narrative. Oh, they like the comedy. Okay, that's enough. The score is like something. Yeah, okay, that's all. Like I can look more because I get very stressed and like I'm like should have done this, should have done that. It's like, no, okay. I actually don't mind. But Vicente has a mind of his own and starts sending me lists and lists of reviews. Like, did you read this? Did you find this quote? Or did you find this funny? I'm like, Vicente, I don't want to read it.
I like the idea that you're like emailing that copy pasta back to every reviewer. Like, what the fuck you say about my game?
I think I have read like every line of every review at least twice.
Damn.
Oh my god.
It's terrible. Like I can't say I have enjoyed it. Like it's stressful. Like even with the good reviews, I'm always like criticizing my game. So every time someone critiques something, like even the tiny little bits, I'm like, all right, yeah, that's fair, and that just sticks in my brain. So review after review after review, like it was really exhausting. But I couldn't stop. Like it wasn't something like I wanted to do. It was something like I had to do. Yeah, it was absolutely a drug.
I remember,
but I'm really thankful with some of the reviews. Like some of them, even my family, after they read them, and just a fun thing. My dad doesn't know any English. Like he doesn't know English. So my brother actually translated one of the best reviews, like one of the 10 out of 10s.
Yeah.
And he printed it. He printed the whole review and then sent it to my grandma.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Oh man.
It was the most beautiful thing I ever saw. And I like some of that kind of stuff happens. And I was so thankful for it. Like that kind of stuff makes me seem like, all right, this was a really good thing we made, and that helps because there has been a couple of bad reviews, and not even bad. I think the worst one didn't have a score, so I don't know how bad it was, but it was harsh. Like even the comments, it was a YouTube video, and even the comments was like, "Oof, hard review.
It wasn't the Escapist one, was it? Because that one was a little
Yeah, but
Yeah.
It was
that
that
was
one.
it.
Okay.
That one.
but I remember like watching the comments because watching the review was hard. I cannot say that I agree with the video. Vicente, we talk about this. But I remember the comments, like people complaining about it. To be honest, complaining about the review, like I enjoyed the game, I like the game, or stuff like that. It's like this sort of feelings, like the thing I liked.
But some people did agree.
Yeah, there are people that agree, but there are people that agree and that said I will not buy the game or stuff like that. But I didn't see any comments that said like I played the game. I agree. I don't remember.
Listen.
Maybe a selective memory. I don't know.
I was gonna say now you know.
So every time I look at my fridge and there's no food in it, I say like, oh, "Fucking Escapist!" Like,
but I remember like two reviews. I remember correctly. The first one, because it was the like third review we got. It was at 5 of 5 or 10 of 10. It was a perfect review. So I'm like, I'm sold. I don't want to watch anymore. But there was another one that was very good. I think it was I don't remember if it was a 9 out of 10 or a complete score. But that one was very special to me because it talked about everything we wanted to do with the game and explained everything we wanted to the player to feel about the game in a very direct way. And just one person that decided to write the review understood the game was very important to me. I remember I remember crying like my ass off in like in my home, and then coming at the ring because it was like, okay, this is too much feelings for me right now. But yeah, that one was like very special to me. But as a segue, to be honest, the thing we watched the most was the streams. A lot of streams. A lot of streams. The publisher got in contact with a lot of live streamers to play the game, to review the game, and a lot of them just need to play one episode of that or one stream of that, and people keep playing and people keep having fun. We jump on the streams, on the chat, talk with them, and I don't know. I think that's the most meaningful, or the most happy I felt about the game being out, about people playing the game, having the chat, enjoying the game, and just people having fun. We even made friends. Nico Hart is one of the biggest ones that we stay on contact with, because he's a streamer on Twitch. That decided that they loved so much the game, and we keep on contact and all of that. They decided to make this speedrun scoreboard for the game, even though it was just him, and it's just very fun, to be honest. And he's also a very nice person and very kind person, and so yeah, I'm happy that we get to interact with people like that because of the game.
That's dope. I was gonna say too, it's funny. Like, I feel like you're definitely real game developers now. Once you have a bad review, you're legit in there, because like that is just, I've never seen anything and I relate with you guys a little bit too, because whenever I would do something, I would always dig up everything someone said about it, and no matter what you make, someone ain't gonna like it.
Yeah. I remember like one comment. It wasn't even a review. Like it was on the GOG page.
Oh no!
It was like someone say, there is a universe where this game looks good. Suddenly, this is
I remember that. It's not.
I laughed so much with that one. I can complain. That was a really good.
You're like, at least it's on brand.
Yeah.
That is very
That was
funny.
clever. That was really clever.
I love that. Sure. Oh, that's amazing. I mean, really, I honestly think like when it comes down to it, like while it sucks to get bad reviews and stuff, at least you didn't just get people who just don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the worst part is when people just don't care, right? Like if you release something, they're like, whatever. But at least there's people, you know, like you've got people who strongly love it and then some who don't. And it's like, all right, you can tell the game is at least doing something right? If it's gonna actually.
I want to talk about one thing that there was a comment in Twitter, just a random comment that was so funny, because it was during the launch day. When we were scrolling Twitter because the game launched and see the reaction of people and all of that, and someone said, "I love Multiverse. It's just such a great game and everything." And someone answered very salty about how the game was. They played the demo and hated it so much about everything. And I remember the comment saying, "I will read it because we have it in what we have it as a sticker because it's so funny."
I didn't know about this one. I didn't know.
I respectfully and sincerely wish you to jump in front of the nearest train possible. Thank you and have a great day.
God damn.
Dear
Oh
God.
my god, I didn't remember that one.
It's so good.
Well,
I remember with my close friends, we were joking about all that being like a month.
Yeah, I think like bland comments like I didn't like it, like that hurts most, like hurts the most, like that one, like jump off a train is like
it's like
all right.
It's like the game killed his father or something like that.
I was planning doing it anyway, so what's the problem?
On that dark
that's
humor
so
note.
fun. Yeah.
sorry, that triggers someone. Sorry.
I love that.
All right, yeah.
Well, why don't
Trigger
we?
warning.
I think actually. Oh no, wait.
Let's
there is one
continue
more
to
question.
conduct this interview.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I was going to move on to the game analysis, but I realized we have one more question that I think might be interesting. Is like, has there been any post-launch work that you've needed to do? Because you mentioned that day one patch. Like, have you had to do any other patch work, or is it just kind of? Like
we are working on. Aaron, you say?
Yeah.
I don't speak.
I haven't done anything basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Only Aaron and Oscar, our programmer.
Taking a
Our
well-deserved
programmer.
break.
Yeah. We are planning on launching our first patch. Hopefully the last patch, to be honest. First and last patch of the game that's going to have only just a minor bug and all the launch problems they come up with the game that fix all of that. Yeah, I think that's about it. About after.
Yeah, and a couple funny typos, like some scene where Leo says to Everett, "I won't get you off."
oh my God! Okay, I noticed.
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, we
That's a
got a lot
choice.
of comments about that.
I didn't know about the one after I was watching a stream. And someone was like, "I don't think that's right." Like, whoa, this was the sexual warning on the same page.
I saw a lot of people like making winks at camera or some comments like, "I don't think this is on purpose." I remember seeing on Twitter. I remember commenting and like, "Is it not on purpose?" Wink.
Okay, it's good to know. Scoop, you heard it here first. not on purpose. Beautiful. All right, well then, what I would love to do now, we'd like to move into like a little game analysis, because it's very rare that we get to have the developers here to actually talk about their game. So what we're gonna do, we'd like to go through kind of like each chapter, and we're not gonna like strictly adhere to this, but there's this kind of game analysis technique called MDA, which is mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics. And the way this sort of works is just kind of a shorthand for how to look at a game. So mechanics are pretty simple, right? It's the literal what happens in the game, the buttons you press, the things you can physically like do within the game that require no interpretation. I press A to jump, right? That kind of deal. You know, you press the shoulder buttons to change universes, that kind of stuff. But then we look at the dynamics, and the dynamics are that's where the player comes into it, right? It's essentially considering how do the mechanics make you act within the game, and how does this affect your behavior within the game? So taking a look at kind of like what happens with the mechanics, and then the aesthetics is kind of like, you call it fantasy or feeling as well. And it's essentially how do those dynamics end up making you feel, and what was your emotional reaction as you play through the game, right? And so it can include like, how did you just feel as you're playing? It can include like, is there a fantasy that this game is sort of, you know, going through? And so, yeah, it's kind of a nice way of like just kind of understanding what's happening within a game, at least for us who, you know, analyze them. Although it can be useful for game developers too. But anywho, with that being said, why don't we just jump straight on into this and start talking about the prologue in Chapter 1, which is basically the demo as well, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember playing this.
And the part of the game that took the most to make, like
Really? Okay.
prologue and Chapter 1 took like 4 or 5 years, I think. 4 years.
Yeah, it's closer to 3.
And the rest was 1 year in total.
Wow. I guess that makes sense, because really the majority of like the, you know, the central kind of mechanic is introduced right at that beginning, right? Like we get the two worlds swapping. And so what I found interesting within this, and Paula, Rick, you know, jump in here with this too as we come through here, and obviously we'll hear you guys' thoughts on it. But mechanically, what I thought was interesting is like it feels like it very nicely sets up this idea that as you coming through, and I found the prologue in the Chapter 1 really do this well, you're going to hit points where you can't progress. So, hey, why don't you try switching to another universe? And oh, look at that, I can now move through an area. And so I really liked how it just started with just straight up obstacles to jump over, because I thought that was kind of a nice sort of slow intro into that. And then realizing that, oh, okay, so I guess the dynamics that are coming through here from the mechanic of switching and being able to jump is that you've got this ability to jump and switch in midair, which was a fun discovery, I have to say. So like as a player, as I was like, I see, and like learning, like, okay, there's how this works. I'm starting to get it now, right? And similarly, the mechanic of being able to, you know, then you're introducing these sort of the block pushing puzzles, which I'll be honest, most of the time block pushing puzzles, I'm like, meh. But being able to swap between universes, I'm like, oh, well, this is different. I now have to spatially remember where something is located on the screen, right? Otherwise, I'm going to be going all the time between universes. So, yeah, I guess what I'm curious about within this section here is that universe switching mechanic. Can you talk a little bit about like how did that, I guess, come about, and like how has it evolved or changed throughout the development period? Like, was it always in that consideration of swap to progress, or?
Yeah, I guess I had to do the talk on this one. When I started making the game, it wasn't a platformer like at all.
Oh.
It was like a really weird point and click. Aaron saw it and he always laughed about it. Because it's so fucking ugly. Mostly because it was on a really high resolution, like at least 4 times the size of the game
and
as it is now.
Everything was so brown.
So it was really hard to draw on a high resolution, especially because I didn't know how to make pixel art. So I said, all right, I'm gonna shrink the resolution and make the player smaller. And what can I do now with a really small player? I guess a platformer. And that was kind of the idea. So yeah, at first, the idea of the game was to get more universes as you progress. Like, as it is now, it's just swapping between two, but the second universe changed. The idea back then was to adding more. So you actually had a button to go to the next universe and one button to go to the previous universe.
Like a weapon wheel, but for worlds.
Yeah. It was fun to test, but not to play.
There was a lot of comments about that, like it's sad there's only two universes or something like that. And I remember like with Vicente, every time we saw that comment, it's like, no, you don't.
You really don't. Like we knew how hard it was. I mean, for people playing the prologue for the first time, it was already difficult to grasp the mechanic between two worlds. And even in chapter 1, people got confused and didn't swap too much between two universes. So it was like if we keep adding more and more universes, this will get out of hand really quickly. And not only for the players, but also for us, as we had to draw everything like 2, 3, 4 times to make different versions and different music and everything, and it was just a mess. So I remember the day we decided to fix it at 2 different worlds. It was sad, but it was really helpful. Like it was necessary, like really necessary. And yeah, the rest of it, I don't know how the mechanics came in. Like it was just a lot of experimentation. Like, all right, I can do this thing. What kind of puzzles can I do with this? Because I knew I wanted to make like a puzzle game, not just a straight platformer.
Gotcha.
I liked platformer, but I didn't want to make one. So it took a lot of time to iterate and plan things out. That's mostly the reason the product took so much time to make, because it was a lot of experimentation, and also the fact that we didn't have a team back then. It was only me and Aaron, and
only you, to be honest. I joined
yeah.
at the middle of chapter 1.
Yeah, mostly. Back then, it was only me. So making the code, art, music, and everything, took a lot of time, and I was also studying for college. So
So I just wanted to like roll back a little bit on that discussion of like the world swapping, because like you mentioned, I even think I had that thought at one point where I was like, oh yeah, it would be really fun to have multiple universes to go through. But I think the dynamic of having just the two really makes it so that, like, especially in a puzzle game, it's so easy to just get stuck, right? And be like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go next. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But then knowing that it was like, okay, if I can't find the solution in this world, likely I'll find it if I just hit that button, and then I'm going to have something to contrast with. And it's actually interesting because I feel like what it did dynamically for me is that when I could swap between a world, it's almost like it's like that. Literally, it's like that idea with puzzles where you're supposed to see it with fresh eyes, right? Like sometimes you have a puzzle, it's really difficult, so you go away for a while, and then you come back, and it's like, oh, there's a solution. And it's almost like the swapping of worlds created like a actual fresh eyes scenario every time, right? I would literally look away from the screen because I'm swapping it. And then I thought, like, okay, the opposite mechanic, like you said, of having multiple worlds to go through, the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, actually, that sounds like hell, because now I have to, like, which one has the answer, right?
Making a mental image of 5 maps at the same time, it's not fun.
No, it's too much. It's too much.
And probably the puzzle won't take much of a spot in the thing. It's most decide to if we make so much so many universes, you need to make the puzzles a lot softer, a lot easier to understand, and very more direct to the point.
Like,
And
there's been some extreme
we
offers as
decided
well.
we decided very early to not have like a reset puzzles button, you know.
Yeah.
So every puzzle has to be unbreakable, basically, and that was really hard. That was
You
really hard.
can't get stuck in any puzzle.
So far, I think you can't in
Yeah.
anyone. Some people think they do, but they actually they are not stuck.
yeah, they're
They
just
just need
missing
to be
something.
better at the game.
It's really fun to see that. And, like I'm on a stream, and they're, I have to reset the game. And you don't. But yeah, that happens. And so yeah, designing that the puzzles to be like well composed and unbreakable was hard already with 2 universe. With 3, 4, or 5, it would have been impossible, like really impossible. So yeah, we're happy with that solution.
Yeah, I suppose it speaks to the philosophy as well that of the game that you're going, because it's interesting you mentioned there's no reset puzzle thing, because I hadn't even really thought about that, but I'm like, yeah, you're right, there is no reset puzzles. And I suppose if this was a different genre or whatever, if it was a strict platformer, maybe then you could deal with more universes, right? Like, because I don't know, you jump and like that could become part of the mechanics where you press a button and then, oh good, that's the platform I need, you know what I mean? Like, could be more planning out your stuff. But yeah, I see what you're saying, like as a puzzle platformer, and really with the emphasis on the puzzling, it makes sense that you only have the 2. I'm curious about the fall damage thing, because that was something that I noticed as I was playing through the game, that we'll talk later. There was a part where I was like, just damn fall damage. There's like one section that it got me. But I'm curious, like as you were playing through, if there was like because mechanically what I was sort of thinking, I'm like, okay, it seems to me that if you can't see the ground, like if it's off screen, you'll die if you fall. Is that the mechanics? Is that what's going on?
Mostly, it's a reference because there's a certain distance. If you get to certain speed while falling, you're automatically dead. And the whole death animation, like the screen goes black and you appear, it will trigger once you hit the ground, but you are dead long before that. Yeah,
okay, because I did notice, I mean, like thankfully it's so fast, like you're back in it like that basically, which is really nice. And I'm curious if there was like is there a particular reason why you die when you fall and hit? Like, is this to help maintain some puzzles? Like,
yeah, it was mostly. I think that decision came right in chapter 1, like in this one where there's a lot of platforms and you had to go back to the restaurant and then up, and not having fall damage will just break everything like that. And it was mostly because of that. I wanted to experiment with some puzzles that had verticality, and not having fall damage will just made it kind of impossible. But at the same time, I wanted the kid to feel a little more real, like an actual kid just doing his best, like is this animation, like he's really clumsy, where he grabs the legs with all his curves and start to get zapped. That's the reason he can also like die from everything.
Yeah,
you have a breathing bar once you are in, on water. And yeah, if he didn't have fall damage, it wouldn't feel like weird, I think.
And I suppose that connects to the story elements, because and I wonder then too, because this is also an interesting question, because you mentioned with the puzzle platforming, because there's the 2 worlds of this, right? Like there's the Braid-esque puzzle platformers, which is more of like, the kind of fantasy sort of concepts within that one, where but then so sorry, I'm trying to wrap this question up in my brain, but like essentially there are some where it's like there's the more gamey type puzzle platformers, right, where it's like really it's about just solving the puzzles, but then there's this marriage with the story. And so I'm wondering, like, did you find that was the story helping answer gameplay things for you, or was like the gameplay like how did they influence each other, I guess?
We headed to the game like story first. That was the focus. So everything revolves around the story, basically.
The script was mostly written before we started working on chapter 2, even.
Yeah. It was almost finished by then.
We're just missing the last chapter.
Yeah. So every mechanic, every aspect of the game was decided. I don't know how would be the word, but for the story, basically. And in the prologue, chapter 1 is less of an issue. You are just making the player used to the mechanics, so that has to be like a more gamey thing. The story gets more convoluted and a bigger part of the game later on. But yeah, most of the time the puzzles are there to either fill space, like to make the game fun and not just be a walking simulator. Yeah, it's basically that. Like there are these two components, and the story is the most important, but you want the game to at least feel fun while you explore all of this. So
yeah, like the gameplay is serving the story in that sense. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Because I also think something that was interesting is the idea of having you being this child, I think did work nicely with your multiverse mechanic in the sense that it was clearly this, Everett's the one who's actually deciding who can, like what universes he can go to, right? Like I thought that was, I was kind of like, it's a clever, like, actual explanation for this that doesn't feel arbitrary, I guess, Like, it actually kind of makes sense to me because I was like, yeah, this kid doesn't know how to get to other freaking universes. Like, I'm like,
yeah, he doesn't have any powers and anything like that. He just jumps really high, but he only jumps. That's the only thing he does, and walks really slowly. I'm so sorry for that. A lot of people have complained.
I was going to say, I'm so glad you actually showed later on in the game, like what happens if the kid would actually try to change the universes. It goes badly for him.
Yes, there's that one bit, and it's like, oh my god. I have to say, I didn't really notice the walking speed. I've seen it in a couple of reviews where they've mentioned it, and I would normally be the first person to pick at something like that. But
probably reviews are going to be the ones to mention it because they need to go fast into the game. To be honest, they need to finish the game very easy. But a normal player or a player that we try to convey the game to was more of the player that stops, walks a little bit, sees the environment, talks to the NPCs, and then walks a little bit more.
By the same token, Aaron, though, like just to let you know, me and Alex did kind of bum rush the game so that we'd be ready for this. Like a week ago, neither of us had started this. Yeah, same. And I still didn't have that problem with it. And I get exactly what you're saying, but I was in a rush, to be frank.
Yeah. And at the same time, a lot of people who tested the game, even our team, say like, all right, it would be cool to have like a run button, for some segments where you just have to walk. There are a lot of them.
It was at the beginning of the actual development of the game that people start. There were two main things that was repeated a lot. One was to have a run button, and the other one was a skip cutscenes button.
Yeah.
We would love to have the skip cutscene button, but because of how the game was made, it's very difficult to implement for the cinematics system that we have. And the run button, we thought about it, we talked about it, and we decided to because it wasn't the wasn't the feeling that we were trying to achieve to.
No, I mean, it was mostly because having a road button will break like literally every puzzle.
Yeah.
Because you can make every jump larger, and so
that's what I was actually
wouldn't work anyway.
I was thinking of, because I'm like, the minute you introduce a run button into a platformer, there's the expectation that the run allows the jump to go further, right?
Yeah.
Which is actually funny. Where like we talked about this with Shin Megami Tensei 5, I think recently, because in Shin Megami Tensei 5 they do this weird thing where you have a sprint button, but you actually jump farther when you're not sprinting than when you're sprinting.
What?
And it fucks you up when you're playing, because your brain's like, well, if I sprint, I'll go further, and you don't.
Yeah.
And like, so it took me forever
so
to figure it out.
weird.
It's so weird, man. So that's why I'm like, yeah, like if you have it now, you're stuck with thinking of this mechanic and like how it's going to affect everything. Because it's interesting, because I think the reason why I never really noticed it, and maybe once in a while, maybe when I was like walking through a town or something, I might have been like, oh, I wish I could go a little fast, but it was like a fleeting thought. But I think the reason it didn't bother me much is that, like, because it's a puzzle platformer, there's a fair bit of time that I spend standing still, right? Like, I'm thinking about what I'm doing, right? So I'm like, okay, where do I go? What do I have to do? All right, here we go. And I don't know. I don't feel like the puzzles were so intense that I was like constantly like, there's no backtracking or anything. So I don't know.
That was a very big like design points of the game. Like because of the gameplay serves the story, we didn't want any player to get stuck in any part of the game, like for too long at least. So no puzzles could be too hard. That was a really heavy rule when designing the game. All right, yeah.
That we broke.
Rick?
And we're going to talk about it in a next chapter. We're going to talk about when we continue.
Sorry.
We also we also in chapter 1 is in speedrun. This is where you got the first keep of the game, this one that they use, and there was one during the development of the game. You know, in Mario 64 speedruns, you have the backwards long jump that if you start jumping backwards, you start gaining speed. Yeah, we had those for a second.
Yeah.
A programmer discovered that you jump in the same frame, you touch the floor, jumping backwards, you start gaining speed. We fix it because we fix it because you jump very long,
very fast. Like you could literally break the game.
Damn.
So yeah, that was fixed, but there was one that wasn't fixed. And it's not going to be fixed in the patch, to be honest, because it's speedrun and it's very fun. That the speedrun community discovered that if you pause the game while your animation, the kid still does the animation. But that also affects mechanically. That means that if you are going up in the water and you pause, you start going up. Just not even in the water. Go through collisions and through everything, and you can skip and start collecting keys that you're not supposed to have. Skipping doors, so start stacking keys.
I have to say, speedrunners didn't found that bug. It was my nephew.
Really?
Yeah. Like day one launch of the game. He sent me a screenshot. He's like 10. He sent me a screenshot like, is this supposed to happen? I'm like, no. Thank you.
I guess leave it to speedrunners and 10-year-old nephews.
Yeah.
The positive side, not only is a cool glitch for speedrun, it's also a very good way of making the kid dance in the pause button.
That's cute.
Yeah, if you turn around and pause, like while he's turning around, the kid just start flipping eternally. It's really funny.
So I think why don't we move forward then a little bit to the next chapter. Woohoo! Because I want to talk about one of my favorite mechanics. Good old ice world going on here. So yeah, like we move from kind of the underwater pushing puzzle blocks around a little bit to suddenly now having this like and I gotta say, because I remember you telling us about this in the last episode, how like your programmer just solved this ice thing in a day. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Because
it's going to take like 2 weeks. It took it half a day.
Because the mechanic of, and I thought what was nice is that, like, you know, I'm used to mechanics of like, you know, you start moving and you know you can't stop until you get to the other side, which there is that in this, and like that has always been fun. But what I did love about this one was the acceleration that you get from going on the ice to then be able to jump along gaps. Because let's be real, that's just fun, right? Like, I mean, it's just having the ability to just like speed up and go fast. Who doesn't like it? You know, gotta go fast, right? So I'm curious, like, what did the introduction of like the ice element in this do for your puzzle making at this point? Like,
yeah. It was mostly because as we were designing the game, we noticed very quickly that the mechanic could get stalled like really quickly. Because you didn't have that much space for experimentation if the player could only move and jump, right? So that's where there are the ubiquitous objects, the interfaces. But we also wanted to make every chapter feel like its own thing. So I think it was one of the first ideas to make a whole frozen universe. Because it was funny, because overall players tend to hate ice levels. So it was like, all right, then have a whole universe made of ice levels. But yeah, it was a hard one to design, because that would mean that you will have to rely a lot on platforming. And so far you mostly like move blocks and boxes and stuff like that. It wasn't a lot about jumping and running, stuff like that. So this was the level where you had to really rely on platforming. And it was a fun challenge, and I really liked how it worked out, except for one puzzle.
Oh yeah?
Which I
What did you guess? Is it the one where you have the 2 waterfalls and the 3?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that one is the most universally hated in the game.
I love that one though, where you're like hot swapping between the multiverse. I thought it was really, really cool. I
too. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it doesn't give you a very big like time.
But it is a challenging one, I get. Yeah,
It's the only puzzle that's going to get patched. No.
Yes, it is getting patched. It's the same idea.
We're not deleting the puzzle.
No, it's the same, but it's a lot easier to do. Because it was really challenging and kind of frustrating too. So, because the game is slow, and that's something we know and actually like about it. So when you fail and you don't die, you just get into the water and have to walk all the way to the beginning and try again and fail and repeat and repeat and repeat. And many players were like, oh, I hate this one.
Rick, if you want to, we can make you a badge that says "Icon patch," like the other players.
Like I hope this isn't a joke, because I do now have my hopes pinned, no pun intended, on that having that badge.
What, I completed the hard water bottles badge?
But yeah, no, it's, yeah. Many players need to get better at platformers.
Clearly.
Yeah, but our game is not that platformer to be like
that was the point. Like it was a fun platforming level, but that wasn't the game we were making. So
this is not the game that you're supposed to go get good. It's supposed to be the other way.
And you know, it's funny because you can see like the difficulty curve of the game. It was like getting up, and pound. It's like a really big spike on that one.
Again, too, like it's going
back again.
And to be fair, that probably speaks to where I'm coming from. Like I found that really, really tame. Like I didn't even think about it as a bad thing. I thought about it as a fun. It was like, oh, I like that section. And then obviously it's just come back up. I do get that. Yeah, there are people who aren't necessarily looking for that from the game.
That speaks a lot of the player. I've seen a lot of streamers that get that one done like on first try, and not what.
I've seen people get stuck in like the tutorial level. So,
but I remember one review that said like, dude, I have like really stiff hands. Like I can't do stuff that precise. Yeah. So she had to ask for someone else to get past the puzzles because she wanted to finish the game to make the review, but that was what was impossible for her. So
and
at that time I saw like
Also, it was mentioned in a lot of reviews, and someone a specific puzzle is mentioned in a review. It's not like because since it's something that stands out, and it's not the whole level. It's a it's standing out.
I also have to say, like thinking about this ice world more, and now that you reminded me that there's no press reset button, how the shit did you make ice puzzles that could not be broken? That's actually
I don't know. I don't know.
There was magic.
Yeah, a lot of try and error.
Because I think that's
a lot of iteration. Yeah.
Like when you think about it.
And that probably ties into the other like brain melting part of what you were doing, which is the you call them interferences in the game, but essentially the blocks that exist differently in different multiverses.
Oh, that's the ubiquitous, right?
That's the one, rather. Yes,
the ubiquitous. Yeah.
Because there are a couple of puzzles, and I think the ice world is the first place they've really come into their own, where those boxes can overlap in interesting ways. So in one world you can push a block through, but in the other world you can't. And so that's the thing. The ice is only back and forth. So the icy part is bound. It's more what you're doing with the block either side of that. And I did enjoy that. And I think that probably, again, is
I remember a lot of people thinking it was a timing thing. The once the block was turning into the side B version, the side with the eye, you can push it. If not, it's stuck. And it's like, no, it
doesn't work like that.
Keep trying, but it's not going to work.
It took me a while. It was funny, actually. I remember there was like one element. I felt like such a moron. It took me a while where like I was trying to. The ubiquitous, when it was kept flicking with the ice thing, and then it did I was like, oh god damn it, I gotta get this. It's like, it took me a while, but I got
exactly what I'm talking.
Not the way.
Exactly right. Yeah. So
it was just a trap, and you had to climb and jump from
exactly right. I kept doing that, and then finally, so I will say, I did finally figure it out. Where I was like, "Oh no, duh! I have to go to the top." I was like,
I love the puzzle because it's literally like you're very down.
Right? You feel stupid, and then you're like, "Oh!"
Wait a second.
I love to do that kind of stuff. Like making a puzzle like is basically the same as a previous puzzle, but then you have a minor twist, and you get like, all right, this doesn't work anymore. What do I do? And in the prologue, we do that, and I think it's chapter 1 too. But yeah, in chapter 2, that puzzle and the first puzzle of the chapter 2 the layout is, I think, exactly the same. It's a copy paste, but just the elements of which parts are frozen, which kind of box you push, that makes the whole difference. That was a really fun thing to explore.
Yeah.
In the end.
Nice. Cool. Okay. I think we're good on that one. Why don't we keep moving along here? Because we're doing.
Yeah, there are a lot of chapters too.
Yeah. Well, some of them have a little more mechanics than others, so we'll take a little longer. Okay. So now I do have a little bone to pick with you.
Wait.
Before
we move on, are we just talking mechanics and stuff, and not story and Easter eggs? Because I found out a very nice Easter egg on this chapter.
Talk, please.
Well, besides like the running joke of like Looney Tunes style running joke with Everett and the kid, like Everett saying like, "Oh, you kid, go go and make the bridge do the thing. And suddenly he just appears at the other side, and I found that hilarious. But what really melted my heart was this worker that was on top of our roof. I was drawing, and she was like, "Hey, can I draw you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And after a while, she gives you a drawing, and it says, "You don't have to be an expert to be a great artist." Is that an Art Attack reference?
Yes, yes, it is.
I love it.
It is.
It just warmed my heart.
I did love
that.
it.
Made it that far around the world. That's mad.
I find it so funny. I find it so funny that people thought the artist drawing was timely based thing.
That was me, and then I got bored.
And people keep like waiting, going around, and like get impatient and talk to them, and start still wait. Okay, and still wait.
Oh man,
it's worth saying. You only find that if you actively play more of the game. Because there's that bit where it's like, oh, a lot of puzzling ahead, and you go to start, and it's like, no, found a shortcut, it's all good. But like, you only see the artist if you actually then just go and do the puzzle anyway.
Yeah, the extra puzzle. Yeah.
And again, in spite of the rush, I'm imagining you did it as well, Alex. In spite of like, being in a rush, I did that bit.
I'm not even sure I recognized that was an extra puzzle. I just did it because I was like, "There's a puzzle, me go play." So
I thought like too few players will do that puzzle, but in fact, I think like 99% of players do that puzzle, and some of them really are like, "Fuck you, Everett! I'm gonna do the puzzle anyways." Go away.
Yeah, I did.
It's so fun that achievement, I remember, because we thought it was not going to be a normal.
It's the only optional puzzle, I think.
Yeah, it's the only optional puzzle.
Yeah, well, because it was, I don't know, I wanted to do it. I'm like, you give me a puzzle, I'm going to do that puzzle.
And fun thing about the Looney Tunes joke, it was mostly because of technical issues. Like when I was writing the script for that chapter, I remember I was thinking like, all right, I want to do this thing like the kid makes the way for Everett to walk, but then that will limit a lot of the terrain, because how do I make Everett to move around all that stretch? And so it was like, all right, let's do Everett to...
Let's make it a joke.
Yeah, and it was a running joke, and it was one of my favorite ones.
Plus, really, it checks out, frankly. This guy's so, like, extra universal. Cool. Okay. Nice. Well, then let us continue. So, yeah, this is my little bone to pick. So, I'm curious because I love...
Alex, no.
What?
Yeah.
Sorry,
bring that out. That's terrible.
Wow.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I actually didn't quite hear what Rick said. So Rick, why don't you repeat what you said?
That's dirty, Alex. It's what you said more than anything.
Oh, I see. All right. Very funny, Rick.
I'm a child. This is what this is.
We've established that before. So we ended. Dear God, we got so far. We were almost serious.
Almost.
I asked you to introduce your little bone.
Yeah,
that was all you.
Excuse me. All right. So as we got into this section here, so this is the train car bit, and this is kind of the first time where, you know, we learn about the Voyager, which I also just got as I was typing out notes for this. That's also your studio name, which like took me a while, but
yeah,
Easter
egg. Which way you think it is? Is the studio or the Voyager?
I feel like the Voyager must have come first, and then Studio Voyager, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
that makes sense to me. But so this is the first time where we don't have the ability to switch universes, which I'll be honest, made me a little sad, because the universe swapping is like one of my favorite things. And so I'm curious. Now, to be fair, within this area, we are introduced to a number of different mechanics in here. Like we have the switch puzzles with the boxes that break if you fall, which I don't know if there's like a specific rule, but it felt like it was like if you fall like 2 player heights, it's what it felt like. Like,
yeah, 2 blocks.
Nice.
Yeah, 2 blocks, it breaks. I'm sorry for that mechanic. I'm really sorry. I know that 99% of the player hates that mechanic, and I get it.
And that 1% is you. And that
Yeah.
1% is you.
No, sometimes I hate it too.
The other 1% is me.
The fun thing
I
is,
like it. You like that it breaks, that you need to go back and grab the box again.
I
Yeah.
understood it, but I was also like, God damn it. But I'm like, I get it. I get it.
Yeah,
God
I'm
damn
very
it.
So frustrating.
Very there.
This smack, but I get it.
fun thing. Very early on the development, I wanted to have a chapter in a train because
Right.
every game has to have a train in some part.
Also,
But
nice reference to Infinity Train in one of the characters' dialogues.
Yeah, yes. And I remember thinking like, how will this work with two universes? Like the train will move in one, but in the other one there will be no train, so you just will appear in the middle of nowhere. So how do I make that the train is in both worlds? So all right, let's make the train ubiquitous, but then it will be very messy visually. So it was like, all right, let's just not do universe swapping. Let's just experiment with that. And I don't know where the mechanic of the boxes breaking came off. I don't know what was he thinking, but I thought like, all right, that could be cool and fun. And turns out it wasn't that much. But we stick with it because we already had a lot planned, and the time schedules were very constrained. So changing like the core mechanic of the chapter was like a no-go.
So I suppose
I think sorry. I think I talked about this the last time we were here. That chapter 3 we had to redo the whole chapter. I think we were doing it the last time we was here. Like we were on the way to making chapter 3 again, because it was too difficult. To the point that the puzzle were very infuriating because it was not in difficulty, not in the user like skill level. It was more in like timings and all of that. Yeah. A very problematic chapter. Even
and it was boring.
It was very boring, to the point that even our team played who replayed the game because finding bugs, playing the game, get to play until chapter 3 and decided like, okay, that's all. I don't want to play. Imagine if our own team just wanted to rage quit on chapter. How normal players will have done that.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, we are going to redo chapter 3, and also even the cinematic changed because even the cinematics were very boring. It was just chapter 2, but worse, to be honest.
Without jokes, like it was still the train starts with Everett waiting at some point. The kid opens a door and Everett just walks and says like, hey, we'll see each other later. And that was the whole chapter, basically. You open a door, Everett walks away, and then you follow him. Then you open a door, then Everett walks away, and you follow him. And there were conversations in between that was just like
information dumps. Information dumps without interesting background in or anything. So we were like, okay, we can do this better. Not now because it was this at the beginning of the, but we can do it after, and we did. And the chapter you played is the actual chapter 3 that we wanted. Even the interface, a new thing in the old one.
Is it me or I hear it cut out your audio?
Yeah,
same. Yeah,
you're like cutting a little bit sometimes.
there.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm actually kind of happy with how they turned out at the end.
Yeah.
No, definitely not at the beginning. But it's like a controversial chapter. Like a lot of people wasn't expecting like just take the main mechanic of the game out of them so early. There was one review that actually praised that. Like they say, all right, this guy had the guts to just take the main mechanic from you and see what they can do without it, and they actually liked the result. But a lot of players don't. So
Yeah.
that's why we try to make the chapter at least short. Is much shorter than other chapters. Also because a train cannot be done long. But yeah.
It's only so long the train can be, right? Yeah. That makes sense.
And it's still a really huge train. Like you get to find it start escalating, and it's huge. It's
I
a
will
really
say
huge train.
that was one of the ones where like that was the only time I think in the game where I was like, I don't know if I get the scale of this. Like, I was like, something's off here. I'm like, this train, I don't know what's going on here.
And it's bigger on the inside.
It was worse.
Yeah.
It was worse at the beginning.
Yeah, it was way worse.
Oh my god.
So is that an example of you like putting the story first, then taking things away when it doesn't make sense for you to have access to that power? Was that like
It was
the sole
more
driver behind that decision, or?
It was more we were following the script point by point, and found out it was while playing it was boring as a game. As a story, it was okay because information dumps are necessary. For example, in a movie or in a cinematic, and this is a point that you need to start learning more about Everett and not in this jokey side of Everett, more of a serious one. But we couldn't handle it as a game. We handled it as an animation or something like that, not without the gameplay mechanics.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean more the Voyager access, because obviously specifically that goes away, and that is just to tie into the story. There wasn't like a mechanical thinking behind that, or am I missing something here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because the idea of the train level came before the actual script for that level. So after we decided, all right, let's take the Voyager out, it was like, all right, why?
Right, okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then it follows that way. Got you.
Yep.
And also it was the introduction of like this side of the people that were following the Zenith, that is not like they are not actually evil. It's just a misunderstanding. Most of the point that it was trying to convey the chapter, I think.
Yeah, because I got that sense, especially when you get through the end there and you meet. Oh my gosh! Oh no, the name.
Sagan.
Sagan. That's
Sagan.
Sagan. Yes.
Sagan. Yeah.
Sagan. Yeah. I was thinking Carl Sagan. Whenever I saw that name, I was like, yeah, where you meet Sagan, which also I appreciate that he's in a wheelchair. It's nice to see characters with disabilities.
My God, the wheelchair of Sagan. The whole game had been to rework it to think how Sagan get there. We need to add ramps. We need to add floors on some parts because how do you explain Sagan got there if it's a platformer that everything needs to be jumped through? We even thought about giving Sagan a freaking jetpack like Happy Wheels or something.
Jetpack. I guess that's true, yeah, platformer. I feel like part of it too, though, I feel like there's a suspension of disbelief within a puzzle platformer, at least for me, where like I just assume that it's like as they're coming through, I'm like, yeah, I don't know, maybe this is actually what the whole world looks like, but whatever, it's a puzzle platformer, right? Like, you know, I don't know. I hope people have goodwill for that when you play through it, because like for me, I barely even think about like the actual
I think in general.
It was more in chapter 3, especially because of how the wagons were wagons.
Wagons, I think.
Wagons.
Wagons.
You mean like wagons.
Carriages.
Thank you.
Carriages is probably a better word. Yeah.
Are connected. in the first version of the game, you need to jump from one to another, but that doesn't make any sense for say. How the hell did he get to the main cave?
Oh yeah.
So we decided to add these little ramps so we can just go scroll through from the end of the train to the head of the train.
I like that accessible design right there.
Yeah.
I like that. Do either Rick, Paula, anything you want to add for this chapter here?
I don't think so.
No. Most that I have to say is story wise. So go ahead to the next chapter.
Okay, we'll jump all through that very soon. Yeah, why don't we talk? Well, actually, chapter 4, I don't feel like a lot mechanically to talk about. Is there?
The interferences.
Yeah,
That's where
Yeah.
they introduces.
Yeah.
That was a fun chapter to make, but for me, not for our artists.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that
later.
Let's talk about after you said what. It's injudgeable.
Yeah. The interferences were very hard to design. Like I had the idea. At this point, I was still the only game designer. It was, I think, just after this chapter, Christopher joined the team and he went on with the level design. But at this point, I was thinking, all right, I want the interferences. I want them to look like this and to limit your universe switching. But there are still like small details, like are they persistent between universes, or they do exist just in one and disappear in the other, and how that helps and or can be unhelpful for making puzzles. And that took a lot of time. Like it was a couple of weeks when where I didn't make any puzzle, and that's really terrible because our time schedules were really constrained. So I needed help, but eventually it worked out, and it was a fun. I think for me it's one of the most fun chapters to play. And for Aaron too, I remember like
yeah.
I hate you so much. I was really nervous because I made like just the concept and the very basics of the level, and sent it to Aaron. And he said like in a very serious voice, like, all right, do you want my honest
because
opinion?
it was after chapter 3 also.
That
was such a bad chapter.
Yeah. I was like, my moral was very low. So he was like, all right, do you want my honest opinion? I was, all right, go for it.
Again.
He was like, I love it so much. You son of a bitch.
God damn it!
Even Daniel, the wannabe, like our game director, loved it so much. I remember it was one of the chapters that was like, okay, this is just perfect. This is just multiverse in the peak.
Yeah.
It's big, yeah.
And for those listening too, like just to be very clear on what these are, so like the interferences are very much like the segments where you can't switch while you're in them, but when you enter them, it basically just shoots you out in the direction you entered into.
And change universe also.
Yes, and swaps the universe.
I describe it as interference as more like a cell, to be honest, because it has a core that changes your universe automatically, and it has like this outer space that doesn't let you change universe, and it has two mechanics on one.
That's one thing of puzzle games in general. Like introduce something like that limits the mechanics that you know already and you're used to, and that makes a lot of space for fun ways to create puzzles, and it worked out. I really like that mechanic. Is my favorite.
It really makes you consider what you're doing in each one, right? Like you have to think to yourself, like, okay, so when I go through there, it's going to swap to this universe, and then right, and like so there's a real I don't know. There's a lot of consideration, which I think lends itself very nicely to talking about the next chapter, because I feel like that's where the interferences really start to shine, because you introduce the poison mechanic, right?
Oh yeah.
Which nothing like and I think this is interesting because I thought philosophically dynamic that this had. It's like I've been used to going slowly, figuring out the puzzles, getting it, and now it's just like, sucker, you've got a time limit, so you better go beat that puzzle. Which I was actually.
I love that chapter 4. You change to the universe, to the other universe. It's just so pleasant, and everything you do is just fun, and all of that. And you change to chapter 5. That universe B is like, okay, I'm going to punch you. You're going to like it.
And I like too because you introduce those vines that you can climb, and then the poison world gets rid of those vines. So now you have more ways of navigating through it. And so I feel like that to me actually was one of the more like challengingly satisfying chapters, I think, where it felt like things were kind of like upping a little bit, and I was like, ooh yeah, like I'm like, all right, here we go, like yeah, give me a time limit. There were some moments that I definitely had challenges with the interferences. Like there's that one puzzle where, what is it? The interference.
The H, yeah.
Oh my god, I don't even know if I did it properly, but I beat it. I was like,
there are two ways in general. Yeah. I don't even know what the perfect way to solve it. But yeah, it's a fun puzzle. I like that one. And overall, in general, people like it a lot.
But a funny thing about chapter 5 is I think it's the first one that Relay started working on.
No. I was still in charge of it. It was chapter 6 when he started. And chapter 5, that's when I really didn't know what to do. Like, all right, I have this mechanic that makes you limit how much time you can be in the world. But now I have to give you like
a reason to want to change.
A reason to want to be in a world that wasn't want to be in it. So it was like, what the fuck do I do with it? And I started calling like Daniel and people that like, well, wasn't even play. It was
the reason Relay joined, because it was too much of a
we noticed that just one level designer wasn't enough. But it turns out it worked at least well enough. I thought at the beginning like people wouldn't like that chapter at all, but it turns out it's one of the favorites for some people in general.
Also, my favorite music. The side B is definitely my favorite song on the whole OST of the game.
It's so metal. I love it.
It's so good. And the name is we try to give it a like rock metal the kind of feeling. Is called like no oxygen for the unknown or something.
No air for the air for
the unchanged. I think it was.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, it's really neat too because like as a player going through that level, I did feel like there was like this natural progression of my skills, right? Like I was now being pushed a little further and further, right? Like with my universe swapping, and like now I have to like properly time when I grab those vines, and I have to get off that to do that. And like it just, I don't know. To me, it felt like satisfying in that sense, like especially mechanically and dynamically. And then it gave me this feeling of like, yeah, I'm starting to kind of like, and I think too, like even to hit briefly on story here, it's also a moment where I'm starting to feel more confident as that child, right? Like the child himself, I think, is starting to get a little more confident as you're going through it. And then I also feel that way. So I thought that was a nice kind of mirroring of themes in that moment.
I think that's the first time that when the child gets electroshocked, he didn't faint out. Like he just gets into the ground. I think, why? Why is he electroshocked me?
That's the one that
some players comment about that.
Eric goes like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah, thumbs up. That was pretty cute.
Thumbs up. Yeah. Some players comment about that. Like it shows how the kid gets more resistant to the electroshock.
Yeah, he's getting better. Rick, Paula, did you have anything you want to add for this chapter here? We're going a little quicker.
Obligatory like reference that I have to like call out. The one from like the goose. That you take your time.
For legal reasons,
it's
not the goose game.
For strictly legal reasons.
For strictly legal reasons, our team says that is a normal goose.
It was
amazing. Tell us the title of the game.
Yep.
It's a game from Untitled Game.
And also the frog. The little frog. I saw a little frog and follow it. And it suddenly like just took a teacup and I just sat there and it was adorable. And then I was talking with her and they was like, "Oh yeah, that's teacup."
It's so funny because it's a reference to another Chilean game for one of our friends. And it's also like a very little game, and it's not very well known.
Teacup from Smarto Games. They are very friendly.
It's literally a frog that drinks tea. So
that's
the reference.
I was laughing while Paula was talking because the original integration of the sprite that Vicente made was like the frog gets the cup of tea, gets the heart, and just goes
to the river. And disappears.
Just into the river, like, okay, bye.
Oh my god.
We asked the developers of Teacup, like, all right, is it fine to you? And they were, please don't. Please don't.
Can you not eat the frog?
Don't eat the frog. Nice.
And it's so funny because no one gets that reference.
No, I didn't.
People just walk there.
No, people think it's an original character of ours. Like we literally got one fan art of Teacup. Like it was like it's like, oh, I love this little cup of tea, like frog thingy. I'm like, yeah, it's from a game. It's from a what?
Come again?
Yeah, people in chat are saying like, oh, all right, this is a frog with a Trump wig. With a hair. And what the fuck? Why is this here? And people get so shocked with it, and it's so funny because it doesn't add anything to the game. It's just to make some fun and a fun reference.
Fine reference to a friend.
Yeah.
Love it.
And it's in very stark contrast to how dark the multiverse then is.
Yeah.
That's the first time you really have a concept of like the multiverse being harmful. I suppose it's
I think people just love the frog because it's at the end of chapter 5 and people are just coping.
People are just coping at that point. Yeah. It destroyed me.
It's one question that occurs to me. Like, go ahead, Paula.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, cool. I was just going to ask. It's not really related to this chapter specifically. I'm not sure if you've already sort of said it, if you have completely missed it, but was there a reason that you designed it in the order that it's played? Because I don't know that that's normally the way these kinds of things go. And it's kind of interesting that that's how it's ended up going for you guys.
Oh, I don't think so. I think the only reason was to make the mechanics of each chapter like progressively difficult. Like having a timer when switching universe would have been really difficult at the beginning, like in chapter 2 or 4. So it had to be at some point where the player like already is really comfortable with the overall mechanic. And later on, chapter 7 is the same thing. That's probably one of the weirdest mechanics. But yeah,
gravity things, you know.
But
yeah, of yourself.
Right. But it wasn't like a conscious thing. It's just like that's how it happened, kind of thing.
Yeah. Also thematically, like that whole chapter is about toxicity, so
yeah,
it makes sense to have that mechanic there.
There you go.
We tried to the ambient that was going on reflects what is happening on the story.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, well, I'm gonna move us forward. Just I want to make sure we have time to. This will be a long episode anyway, but that's all good.
Yeah.
Make sure we have time to do some good old story stuff. But chapter 6. So this one was interesting because again, this is one where we don't have access to the Voyager, obviously for story reasons. Everett's been captured. This game, this level. Oh, okay. Is there something here?
It's definitely not the favorite of no one. As chapter 3 also needed to get a rework. It was not the whole complete level, but like half of it, I think, a little bit more of that.
No, I think it was a complete overhaul.
Yeah, but
Really?
this was a different one because our team was very happy how the original one was, but we got early reviews. Normally in the game development, you get some reviewers to get to try the game in a prototype kind of level, and they just the shit out of chapter 6, and so we decided to just make it more fun, make it more of a like funny stuff. We tried to make it more of a like Metroid kind of thing.
With the map. The map made all the difference.
The main reason we tried to rework it was because the original one didn't have a map. So
I never used the map.
So it was a big labyrinth.
No. I was just
have no idea how you did it.
I was like, I'll figure this out. And I just went to town. And it worked.
Whoa. I can't pass that chapter without the map.
I don't know what this is doing. So I was just like, wee! And I figured it out. I've done a lot of, to be fair though, I've done a ton of games like this. Like as I was like looking at this one, I was like, oh, I know what this is. This is the enclosed room, elevators. The rooms will connect to each other. I'll get through it eventually. Bada boom, bada bing. So I just did that. I was like, wee! And I got through it.
We put like every time more and more indications of where you are and where are you going with each door. There are very small ones that players won't normally notice.
Like
but
the doors, the numbers, the walls.
Well, see, that's what was enough for me was the numbers.
The keys, even the keys show where you're going to use them. We try to make it as much as easier kind of thing to follow as much as we can. Also, I love chapter 6. It's one of my favorites, to be honest. One of my favorite chapters. But I actually feel it's a different game. It feels like another game.
And I have to say, it's like one of the points where I felt, why have I not got the Voyager here? I would love, instead of like using an elevator up and down, there to be like
a changing universe.
Through.
And that's chapter 7, to be honest. Chapter 7 is just chapter 6, but with a change of universe.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I kind of, but you don't have the whole like key card thing. I would have.
Yeah.
I definitely playing it. Obviously, I didn't have the experience of chapter 7 in chapter 6. I definitely remember thinking I would love a different way of moving around rather than like a central elevator.
Chapter 6 was like the backwards progress with chapter 3. Like here, the plot came before the mechanic. So we knew we wanted to make like, all right, Everett is in prison. You can't switch universe. So how do we make this chapter?
So it's the opposite of what I'm thinking. You're right. Yeah. Got you.
I see. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Now I'm watching the notes, getting the Voyager. Haha, that's a studio name. I just got the now.
That's her agenda. I was like, oh yeah, there it is. But yeah, it's funny because as I was playing, I thought sort of the same thing with Rick was saying, and then I also felt too like you were both saying, where I was like, oh, I feel like I just played a mini prototype of a different game in a way.
Yeah. It definitely feels like the next game of Studio Voyager. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You're doing a Metroidvania.
I'm not winking.
You're like, not winking. I'm not winking. Well, do you guys anything else you want to say? Because I really want to start talking about Chapter 7 because I think that's the one where it should just like that's where everything gets into play.
The horror scene, the horror scene where the kid tries the Voyager by himself.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that was so uncanny.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
It was so...
Yeah, that's so funny. The horror scene was all animated by our programmer, not our artist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
That whole monster.
Yeah.
We didn't even have the monster. Like we just had like the room with the hands and tools on the back, and we were like, all right, this is good enough. And next day, our programmer came out with,
I made this. Can we use it?
I made this. Can we use it? And we're like, holy fuck, this is too good.
Is this the stress of the game?
That's amazing.
And he kept working on it and making it even more creepy.
Better and better. It's so funny. Also, it has more frame rate than any of the animations, so it looks
pretty smooth.
It's really smooth.
It's so weird. Also, that adds to the creepiness of that.
Well, this is the this chapter 7 is the one where I told you what the frustrations with the fall limits, because the anti-gravity, I kept dying so much. I would go and it's because I never quite, it took me a while, I think, to realize that, and I still don't know if I have it fully, but as I would, because first off, I love the anti-gravity idea, amazing idea, and I found that as I would go up, as I would switch, I didn't quite have the handle on the fact that the gravity wasn't instantaneous, because you're on an arc, right? So if let's say I flip the anti-gravity and I go upwards, then I would flip it again, and I'll still move a bit up before coming down. And it took me a long fucking time to realize the timing for that, because so often I would hit it and then I would hit it and I would just hit the up part of an off-screen up area, and I would just die out. And I was shit. Yeah. So I don't know, Rick, Paula, did either of you face that, or am I just a dummy who didn't figure that out early enough?
Actually, just love this level.
A thing.
Bad idea to ask the both
sorry,
of them.
I asked you both at the same time. I'm sorry. Paula, why don't you go first?
Yeah, the thing is that I realized pretty quickly here that it was the speed and not the actual height that killed you. So just before reaching the floor or the roof, I would just switch the universe for a split second and then go back to the one that I wanted to go.
But that would still
so
kill
that
you.
way.
But then, and this is the interesting thing. I went the whole opposite way. I played super cautiously, so I'd toggle it 4 or 5 times on my way through. But you get into this flow of it of almost sine waving it up, and I found that quite enjoyable.
I'm an impatient gamer.
I'm Alex kind of team. I'm such a big team of Alex at the moment that I remember during the whole chapter, I have arguments. Daily arguments with Vicente that can you put can you make it once in there? Can you make it once in there? It looks broken. I hate it. But I was the only one in the team that hated it, so I was like, okay.
That was the world, I think. I really forgot. This feels so fun. It just
looks so broken.
You can go anywhere.
That's also therapeutic for me.
That was my favorite mechanic. After the interference, because you really could made it up to anywhere, and that was really fun. But that also made the puzzles a lot harder to design, because
you died everywhere. Everything will kill you. You get crushed with a box. You can grab a ledge of falling down. You can grab a ledge that was in the outside of the wall, so you just pop right off the level. You can fall from the level.
It was really buggy. But also, as Rick said, if you go carefully with the mechanic, you can go anywhere, literally anywhere. Any point on the map. So that made that makes it a lot harder to design, because normally all the puzzles you can see you can prevent where the player can go at any moment. But here you can't, because the player can go anywhere. So that's why we had to put like just an interference there, just to have that space where you can't
outside of the interference, so you don't need to change universe.
Yeah, you don't use the interference, you use the space basically. So
it was becoming hell for the programmer. It was becoming hell.
Yeah,
imagine that.
That's why I was like, listen, or you fix this, or you don't have the flying mechanic anymore.
Although, on the point of going anywhere, I do want to shout out one of the little secrets of the game, which is a little tucked away room when you first get into the labs, with a guy who clearly like hung out there. And the special item you can get is like a body pillow. And the caption,
oh no,
they're both laughing because they know what the caption reads. The caption says it's sticky for some reason.
Oh yeah.
No.
That was Aaron's idea.
I applaud it. It's a great idea.
I'm not going to deny it. Also, it's called Magica Starsuki, and I remember I was funny shit ever. Thank you, Paula, for the name. Because we had a brainstorm idea with Paula to make up some anime for Multiverse.
Incredible.
I love that. We need a smutty body pillow anime name. Any ideas?
Yeah,
Paula is the person we're going to brainstorm next week.
I was like, I knew my Otome plan.
It's all out.
I also have to say, this level, what I really loved, the 3 little worlds you could go into because of the way that they mixed up the universes that you've been playing with before. That for me was really fun.
I agree.
Like that's Rick and I talked about this even last week. We were talking about the pod, but like this is one of those levels where I was like, nice. This is like different ways on mechanics that I've used before. And I feel like it actually gets a little bit to that thing you talked about wishing that you could have multiple universes. But you kind of get that here a bit, right? Like it's like, oh, okay, I can actually mix and match some of the ones that I've used before in like fun, interesting ways. And so that to me was actually maybe one of the most satisfying things in the game, because I was just like, yeah.
And mechanically, that's the best of both worlds, right? Because you're giving the player that novelty without too many opportunities to break the experience themselves. Similar to like what some of the other better examples of the genre do, where they bring an idea in and then remove it from you. You see that in the Boxwood games, for example, where they bring one thing and then swap it out. And I think if you are looking at criticisms where you might say that the Voyager isn't there enough, I think it's in those moments that comes in, because they are just so good. And it does feel like it's being wrenched away from you when it does go away, even if it is for a legitimate story reason.
That's probably why I was actually sort of sad when I would lose it. It's because, frankly, it's very fun. So compliment to you.
We tried chapter. We don't have bosses in the game, of course, because it's a puzzle platformer. And we didn't try to find it like so much violence, like a part of the cutscenes to all of that.
Part of the electroshocking.
So we only have one boss fight, to be honest. It's just Natch chasing you in chapter 4. But I also feel that the lab in chapter 8. Chapter 7 feels like a boss, because you are kind of conflicting with Leo during the whole thing.
And unlocking those doors.
If you think about it, even has the 3 hits to win the boss fight.
I suppose so, yeah.
And Leo takes off his jacket and puts a real fight boss.
You're not the one fighting Leo, it's Everett losing very badly, but
and that's when Leo says, I
will get you off. I will get you off.
I just had a moment where, I'm not gonna lie, I thought Leo was a girl the entire time. Is Leo a dude?
No, it's a girl.
It's a girl.
It is a girl. I
used the grown from.
I thought someone said a guy. Okay, I was like, Leo's a girl, right? I was
no.
Okay, yeah. Okay. All right, I thought I was losing my mind. I was like, did I not pay attention enough? Okay. Okay, so why don't we let's keep going, because again, so much time. Let's hit on this one. Unfortunately, I think is my least favorite chapter 8, because this is the studio one where you're moving the ladders along and you're on the Voyager. it just felt a little slower to me. I think was the thing.
Yeah, it's slow. That's the biggest definition of that chapter. It's really slow.
There's a lot of story that you had to get out.
And
in essence.
Yeah, a lot of story. And then I also think because because 7 was so exciting, you know what I mean? It's like, and I get how there needs to be that pause. I think maybe it was just a little longer than I was looking for. Personally, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say on this one because really it's more switch mechanics, dropping ladders, moving ladders around. It was fun finding those secret areas though, crawling through those spaces. Like that was neat. I did enjoy that.
That was our idea, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Well, we tried the best. Chapter 8 doesn't feel more of a. It's different to chapter 6 and 3 that don't have the Voyager because you feel that you lost the Voyager, and it tried to feel more like constrained to what a kid could actually do. And even the music, we try to feel it more nostalgic, like you lost something and you lost that the thing that you lost everything that you were like going through the thing. In chapter 7 you get everything, and chapter 8 you don't have anything. That's why we try. Also, Melanie is the best in the whole game, so chapter 8 is still the best chapter.
One thing that I really like mechanically was when chapter 7 at the end it kicks you out of the game, and that reinforces that feeling of, oh, you lost something. And when you go back and you are in this studio and you start exploring, it has like this feeling, like this nostalgic feeling, like looking at the stuff that once was, but in a weird way because you're just discovering it. But it's like talking to an old friend in a way.
That was the
point of the whole chapter. We tried to come across. Funny about the chapter 7 kicking you out. We also got very controversial like reviews about that. Like people like it and people really hate it because they were like, okay, not all the indie games need to like break the fourth wall and all that. It's fine.
But it happened to a friend of mine, which was streaming the game, and she got to the point, and the game kicked it out to the main menu. She really thought that was
the game was over.
So she just stopped playing and started reading reviews and watching videos and watching like parts of chapter 8 and 9, and was like, I didn't play this. So I DM'd her like really quickly, like, that's not the end. Please continue. But that could happen. That was
also it has the biggest error in the whole game. Chapter 7, since if you play from the chapter selection, you are hardlock from the game. Your save is lost, to be honest, because how chapter 7 works. Once you go back to the menu and just press the continue, you continue from the last save point. And how chapter 7 works, the last save point is in the hallway. But if you go from chapter selection, the last save is can be on chapter 8 or on chapter 9, and you can get a hardlock from the game.
Yeah.
Oh. Yikes. You're muted.
You're muted.
Then, sorry. Yes, you definitely don't want to do that then.
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose.
But chapter 8. Well, we talk a lot about how much info we want to give to the player. Like the player will have to read a lot in this one. So how much is too much, you know? But we thought, all right, this is literally basically the final.
It's a library. Also, it's a library.
It's a library, and the game is ending. And if the player made it so far here, they are hooked up with the story, and
they want to know answers.
There are no new mechanics or intriguing mechanics to end the game with. So let's do let you go wide with it and put a lot of stuff there, because there's a lot of stuff to read there.
Yeah.
It's
'Cause,
like
Also a
14
lot,
pages of
also a lot
everything.
for interpretation, to be honest.
yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
things for the player to discover on their own and try to find this this mystery that is around the whole game.
I suppose too, because and then when you had the finale coming through, really, there's no new mechanics besides like the worlds are just flitting on their own, so you're just like timing jumps and whatnot. But it's just kind of the same one. So I think maybe on that note, I'd like to turn it over because we've gone and I want to keep. This will be a long episode, folks, so stick around. But I'd like to turn over now, Paula. I'm going to turn it over to you a little bit because I want to talk a little story stuff here. Because we've been flirting around this a little bit, but I think we've pretty darn well dug deep into the mechanics and everything in this game, and flirting a little bit with the story stuff. But yeah, do you want to hop in here a little bit and talk story impressions and ideas?
Yeah, where do I even begin with this one? Because oh my god, there's so much to unpack here. Like, first, do I go chapter by chapter again? Do I
think maybe let's just
what?
try to hit like the general feelings here, like themes, characters, ideas. Because if we go that way, we'll be forever. But I think maybe best to go on like what are the major things and story points that were meant to kind of hit us, and how did they? I guess.
Well, first of all, like one of my, hopefully I'm not gonna cry saying this, but one of my favorite chapters, one of my favorite characters was Nash.
Oh no!
I hate you two guys.
You're from my team.
I can take the blame. Yeah.
You get to take the blame from me, from your story. So
yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. So Nash was a very interesting character in the way that he seemed to be like very hot-headed, but then you start to dig deeper into his character, and it's like, oh, once he got to start working with you, then his character started like getting a little bit like maybe to a bit of a tryhard, like a little bit like crazy, and it started hitting me really hard because Nash tried to do his best, and he tried to do the best possible work he could do, and still kept failing and kept failing. So the more that I got through the game, the more that I said, hey, Aaron, I don't like where this is going. Because the way that Nash is right now, it's like he's broken in a way, and we all know where this is gonna go, because the more, and this is interesting now that I think about it, because the worse he got mentally, the worse he was physically as well. So it was like you were watching him like losing his will to live in a way. So that was heartbreaking in a way. So when he finally like went away and he was no longer there, it really hit really hard, because it was like, hey, Everett is an asshole. That was when it hit me. Like, Everett was making fun of this poor guy who was trying to do his best, even though he had his own problems, and probably the way he was reacting to things wasn't like something most people would probably think as not right in the head, but he was trying his best and not getting any retribution. And on top of that, you had this guy making fun of him. And then you had I was actually wondering if the toxic air in the chapter was too much like the story, too much the story.
Yes.
Because what the Ever did was really toxic, and that's also how I envision like the air being in a way, like, oh no, like this is where you start seeing like who Everett really is in a way. Like he is still like a good character. I still like in a way, I'm like the kid. I'm like, still have fond memories of him, but I cannot like condone what he did. And so, yeah, that's I think that's one of the points that hit me very hard. But then when you start like unpacking like all these memories from the library, then you start seeing like how really twisted like Everett was in a way. Because he kept hallucinating in a way, like he wasn't really sure, like even if what he was seeing was like reality in a way. So you see that he also has his own like skeletons in the closet, that he also has things that maybe even S didn't know. And speaking of which, I also like how it is Haley pointed that the hat that Everett has is S hat.
Yeah.
And I also like that passing of the torch like near the end when he finally gave the hat to the kid. It's like I was almost like waiting for Everett saying like, "Don't be like me, kid, be better," in a way. Because like the kid looked up to him in a way, and I like how he stopped like just looking up to him and just seeing him like a real friend and saying like, "Hey, don't do this. Hey, this is what you did. I know you're my friend, and I'm telling you because you're my friend. It wasn't right. You crossed the line." So yeah, I think those are like the big topics that really hit more to me, like at the very least that I can really think of right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that whole storyline with Nash and then like the storyline with Everett. Oh, and the storyline with Liz or Liz. How do you pronounce it? Liz? Lisa?
All of
I
the
say
ways.
list. Yeah,
All of the ways.
all of the above.
Yeah, because I like how she forms like this friendship with the kid too. Even though they're supposed to be like in opposite bands, like this kid tries to still cheer her up. And you learn one from Nash because of Liz, but also you learn more of Liz and how she really cares about everyone, and she really doesn't like the way that things went or like the methods are being used. And even though like she's working with Leo and the others, she doesn't approve of their ways really much. But I like that she was like, "Oh, thank you for cheering me on, and also I'm gonna do my best to capture you." And she actually does. And I was like, "Oh my god!" And the kid,
and the kid has mixed feelings, like, "Go you can do this, I guess."
I did like that.
Yep.
I like they're only semi-antagonists. Like that was kind of a neat choice within that, where it's like ultimately at the end of the day, I was like, oh, Everett's kind of the antagonist here, but it was kind of a neat mixture of like. I also have to say, I thought the little play was pretty funny. As someone who's done, it's like nice.
Sat there with 2 twigs.
Yeah, Rick and I mentioned this a little bit, and like, it's unfortunate reality is that like the English translation was like a little difficult for me to like. I kept getting like bumped out a fair bit because there's just syntactical things that felt as though it's clearly a translation, not a localization. You know what I mean? Where like, that, and so unfortunately, like I wish I had like. Put it this way, I wish I spoke Spanish. And I was like, at that moment where I was like,
I feel offended because I work directly in the English translation, so I feel like
Did you?
I will take that personally.
Very personal.
Wait, did you actually work on that directly?
No, the English translation is the one that we did directly. We work with one of the translator, Mark. and then I did the proofreading. So yeah, I can get how it can happen that.
Yeah.
But
well, I'll put it this way, because I think what it is, and actually we talked with Paula about this, because Paula was like, I didn't really notice anything, and I was like, it actually makes sense because and listen, I'm a little more. I also notice this maybe a bit more because, frankly, I teach English as a language. So,
yeah.
Okay, so just understand that's where I'm coming from
so
here.
it is personally.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't tell you that.
I'm also not I'm not a stickler. Like, I don't really care that much about like stuff. It's just that what I noticed, because as someone who I read a lot of English from second language learners, right, or third, fourth, fifth language learners, whatever, right. So what I noticed is that I noticed a lot of the mistakes that get made that simply come from other languages, because written language is a whole other freaking game, right? Like, you guys speak like it's easy, right? Nothing like, but then writing is just a different ballgame. And I think what happens is that as a native English speaker, there's just like literally just syntax choices that are made where it just stops me a little bit, because it's not like wrong per se, right? Like as I'm reading, I'm like, oh, this isn't like, I still get the meaning. It's just that it's so not familiar to how I would read it that my brain stops for a second. Yeah, right. It just feels a little off. So
it's almost like an uncanny valley thing. Like it's so close to right that the way that it doesn't.
I want to know something funny. I want to know something funny. We had someone that was making a Twitter thread about reacting to the game and said the absolute same thing that you're saying, but about the Spanish version.
Really?
I'm like, we talk Spanish, right? They were Chilean, right? He was like, yeah, so I don't know how people know that this is not how Spanish works and all that. It's like, yeah, I talk it.
I mean, I don't know. Are there different?
I haven't read the Twitter thread.
You didn't? It's so funny.
No,
that's weird.
I'm sorry. I watch all the hate. Sorry, I love the hate.
Yeah. You're like, I want the hate. Yeah, I think it's just the reality of like, I don't know. It probably would help, but again, you're a small indie studio and stuff. Like having a native English speaker looking through probably would assist it.
No, I get it.
Yeah, because how many languages did you have it translated in? Because I know there's a Japanese one as
like
well,
10,
right?
I think.
Okay. So I also had a feeling that I was like, it's probably wasn't.
But it's different. Viable. It's different about English and Spanish because it's the only one that we made, and the only one that we didn't have localization QA. The localization QA were us. We're the team.
No, we had QA on English.
No. Oh yes, we did.
Yes,
we had. Yes, we did. We had. Never mind.
Wait,
yeah, we did.
You had a Q. So sorry, like quality. What is that? Quality
assurance. Quality assurance for localization for the dialects and all of that. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so Alex, you are wrong, basically.
Oh, I see. All right.
In which case, I'm wrong with it.
All I'm going to say is that...
in that case, it's not my problem.
No, not your problem. I'll put it this way. Not to throw shade on whoever did the QA for it, but maybe a little bit of shade is being thrown their way.
Yeah. The word quality means something very different to them.
But they fixed a lot of stuff. Like, it was worse, really worse before that.
There's also the issue...
A great job. I try my best to doing the proofreading of that, but there's limit of someone with English as a second language that can do, to be honest.
Exactly. And there's also just a limit to the reality that I'm sure both you and I think you said Barker, whatever, who did translation, probably stared at that script a lot. And so there's a certain point, right, where like you just get to a point where you look at it and it's like, yep, good. And like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just...
Yeah, it starts to make sense even though it shouldn't.
Yeah.
And again, nothing was ever like so off. Yeah, except for the "get me off" thing, which is just funny. That's just a typo.
I will never forget that one. Oh, I love that one.
That one plays LQA.
Yeah, I don't. But that's an example, right? Of it. Probably, if you're looking at it, it just looks fine, and then you go, "Oh, wait," because I think it was literally just there was just like a word missing, just a small like 2-letter word. I think that's missing from it. Let me get you up or something. I don't know, something like that. Anyway,
Get off of you.
Let me get off of you. Yeah, that's it. Yes, yeah. me get you off. Yeah, it was literally just missing that little thing. Sorry, I don't want to grill you on that, but yeah, just something maybe to look forward someday when I'm sure you'll one day when you want to start making another game. Something to maybe think about with like English stuff. It's like having a native English speaker just take a pass at it is like
I get it.
Yeah. Sorry, you're like the sigh of I understand.
No,
I will just cry myself.
Yeah.
It's fine. Another reason to cry. That's all. To the list.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because even being 3 different teams like Studio Voyager, You Wanna Be, and Untold Tales, none of us were native English speakers. You know
exactly. Yeah.
So
But then it's tough because most of you speak English as a second language too, right? Yeah. So like, there's that thing where kind of I'd say you too. Yeah, at least most of you. At least, yeah. Anyway, that's all. Paula, do you want to keep on? Wait, where are we on this now? Oh my god, guys, it's been like 2 hours.
Yeah, let me like grab my brains from the floor because I was like, where were we again?
Paula analysis.
All right. The other thing that I found very interesting from how you told the story was like, especially like, on the last chapter, on the final chapter, where the universes would just keep changing without you doing anything, and you have to like somehow get to the end of the level that way. But also how how do I explain this? It matched the dialogue what was being told to you, the narration, so neatly. I just adore that because the more upset the narrator, and I think the narrator was Everett at that point, the more upset he seemed to get, the more chaotic the changes were. So in that way, it almost felt like I was getting a glimpse into his mind, which I was probably doing at that point in the game. But
that was one of the very few points of the game that the gameplay was made at the same time as the dialogue. They had to fit each other like very precisely. The whole point of the mechanic of changing universes automatically was to feel like this
chaos.
And not having control over what you can do. You had this control over all the game. You could switch universes at will, and then it just happens, and you can't control it. And
also, we try to explain to the player why it's a bad idea to have multiple universes.
Then we did 5 universes at the end, and it was a mess.
And then you see why.
You can see why. All right, you want a more universe? There you go. You go. Suffer.
Also, funny stuff is that chapter 9 was the last chapter we wrote, even though we had the idea what was going to happen. We didn't have chapter 8 and chapter 9 to connect. And once, even the holiday, even the last time we were here, we didn't have chapter 9 written.
At that point, I think we didn't have one. It was a whole brainstorm. Like I remember one night, I wrote,
that was the night. Remember, like
night.
we were in a Discord call with Vicente, just screaming at each other, what he's feeling, what he's going to say.
Like it's that meme of this guy like with
like,
whole
connecting the dots.
Connected the dots. It was
Sylvia.
The two of us on a Discord call because I wrote like
how things are going to happen.
A first iteration of the script, and
like a sketch of what the chapter was going to be.
Yeah, and Aaron didn't like it very much.
It felt empty, and it felt like it was not Everett that was talking. It was just the story that needed to move through. And we discovered that just checking the other chapter, checking what the character had been feeling until that point, starting to write itself. To be honest, it was that point that we presented were talking like, okay, this is technically just writing itself, and it's very weird and very scary.
Yeah,
because we discovered a lot of the characters that we didn't know until that point, and makes sense, to be honest.
well, feeling is such a good way to go from, right? Like writing it from character. And I have to say, something that I really admired and I appreciated that you did with this was that it's focused in its characters. Like there's not that many. You know, like there are lots of like NPCs and other things that you'll meet, but like the core group felt contained and like individuals, which I appreciated, because otherwise, you know, like who cares, right? Like if you don't care about the characters, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? So that's one of those things where it's like they're actually, they actually felt like memorable to me, and like actual like little people in this weird, wild world that they're going through, or wild universes, I suppose.
Yeah, I love to hear that. That was like the main intent, like to make characters that really click with the player.
I also felt alive, to be honest.
Yeah, felt alive, and everyone could identify with at least one of the characters. You know, that's why we wanted to make it the more diverse as possible, and and why each one have a different hair color.
There you go, yeah. Well, in pixel art, you need it, right? I mean, the pixel art is beautiful, but like, otherwise it's hard to distinguish. But they've got their nice little picture icons too, which is nice. When they're talking. Okay, well, what do you think, Paula? Do you got some more you want to go through here, or should we start to? Because this is the longest episode we've ever done.
Oh my God, really?
We'll probably start to wind down here.
To wind down.
Even though I could still talk about the game like all night. So take the mic away from me, please.
Well, if there's anything that Paula you want to add, we can always add some more in another episode. You can go do some chat. Thank you, fellas, so much for sitting through with us and talking through this long old bit. So here's
I love this one. Yeah.
Good. Well, we're gonna.
Yeah, I feel that you don't understand how good this feels, to be honest, to start talking about the game in a complete manner, because we have been talking about the game like these tiny pieces, or talk before the launch, like we cannot mention anything, or we try to avoid spoilers, but it just feels nice to get to talk to people that actually play the game and into completion, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe we'll need to do, I don't know, part 2 to delve further into story, art, and music, because we didn't really. I know that shit.
That would be fun, actually.
Yeah, maybe
we should
award-winning art, award-nominated art.
Yeah, award-nominated art right there. Got some.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we got nomination. Giga Awards, the game industry global
industry.
No, game awards. No, game industry game awards. There you go.
Yeah. We got awards that matter.
Yeah. These are the actual how you say it, like the school academic awards that you get from game development. We got nominated for 2D animation and 2D character design, I think.
Damn right.
Yeah. We just want to thank our animator, that is our lead animator, that's Diego
Ramirez.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's been a long time.
I want to thank that guy.
And our lead artist, that is Andre. Also, I don't remember the last name. Help.
Andre Martinez.
Martinez, there you go.
And I'm not the producer.
Sorry, I'm awful with names. Sorry, guys.
Just to let you know, I'm not the producer.
I'm gonna get it.
You're gonna get it. There you go.
I'm gonna get it. Also, Vicente, of course, that make the original character designs, since everything hasn't changed in over 5 years.
Impressive. Well,
Basically.
I'll put the challenge then to Paula, come up with a little format for a story episode as well then, and we'll come back. I'm going to pass off to her. With that then, why don't we jump into the reason you actually came here today? It wasn't talk about your game. It's how long to beat the game. All right, so it works a little differently now. So I have chosen one here, and the way this is going to work, you'll send. So here's what I'm actually going to get you to do. So Vicente and Aaron, I'm going to get you to type out your thoughts for main plus, and 100%, but don't send it yet. Just type it out, because really you send them privately, but I'll just have you two send them in the main thing. So I'm going to reveal the game. We don't say what we think. You just send it to me, and then I reveal it afterwards, as well as a bonus category. So the game that I have here today, luckily came out. It's a Game Boy Advance game. So hey, you two might win again. It only gets whoever did. So
oh my god.
Yeah. So the game is Dragon Ball Z Boo's Fury. For the Game Boy Advance.
I played this game so much as a
Yeah,
child.
have you?
Oh, did I play this one? I've played one
I
of
played
them.
the three version, the three.
I have this on my
like,
backlog,
things.
actually, I think. I do want to play this at some point.
It's so good.
Oh, I remember this one.
Nice.
It's so good.
I never watched Dragon Ball, but
But
But you
It's
played
so
this?
fucking
Yeah.
yeah,
So-
I played this. It was so fucking good.
We'll type out our main plus, and then completionist time, what we think. And what happens is whoever gets closest wins. So for the guests, basically what I'll do is that if you guys win, whichever one of Rick and Paolo is closer, they'll also win, because keep it fair. Because basically this is like the end for us for this game, because whoever wins this one today gets the most points at the end, gets to choose a theme or game for the rest of the podcast to play. So there's some pretty high stakes right now.
Yeah, but sadly I'm not gonna make it, but I'm still gonna try to make it for Rick.
Yeah, the scores right now.
I always say that and I always fail.
Yeah, 13 for me, 11 for Rick, 5 for Paolo. Rick's pretty likely here, but we'll see.
I'm trying to work out what the hell kind of game this is.
I don't remember. It's kind of like an action RPG, something
Yeah,
like that.
action RPG. Sure, let's go with that.
Yeah,
I think.
ARPG kind of goes for it. Yeah. So
Game Boy.
I thought it was the one I played. It absolutely
Game Boy.
loved.
It's a Game Boy game.
Here's what
There's
I'm gonna.
like 4 or 5 Dragon Ball GBA games, and one of them's like a side scroller that I played that was actually quite good.
Yeah,
very,
but
very
that's
short.
a Dragon Ball
This
game.
is not it.
Dragon Ball
This
Z
isn't
game.
it.
Yeah.
You're thinking about the Dragon Ball game, not the Dragon Ball Z game.
Here's the bonus category, by the way, because there's a bonus category for for 2 points basically. And so what I think I want to do here for the bonus category. Oh, this is a neat bonus category, maybe. Okay. How many emulated entries are there? So how many people have submitted the game as emulated?
How many people have emulated the game?
Yeah, have submitted the game as emulated on How Long to Beat.
Oh.
Yeah. So that'll be a number.
Can you tell us how many regular submissions there are?
Yeah, that's a,
Yeah. No.
Give us a little bit of
that's
context.
of a reference.
No way! I'm not giving you context for that. What are you talking about? Why would I do that? That's the challenge.
All right. So what categories are?
Oh yeah, so you're giving me the hours for main plus extras, and completionist, and then you're going to tell me how many people have emulated the game.
Yeah,
in numbers.
So 3 times. All right.
Rick and Paula are
I'm
ready.
nervous.
Yeah, and then I'll have Aaron and Visa. You'll just send it to me.
What was the bonus one?
Bonus is how many people have
emulated entries. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you were laughing at my
Yes,
my caption on
it's
mine,
pretty
Alex,
funny.
yeah?
It's good.
I think I'll overshooting on emulated entries, but let's go.
Let's see. Okay, I've got Paula's and I've got Rick's, And now we'll just wait. So Vise and Aaron, you can submit whenever you're ready.
There you go. I'll change it to the DM because it's funny.
Oh, perfect. Nice.
I'm not following your rule.
No, I love it. That's good. I like sending it to the DM. That's nice. Okay, so just waiting for one more, and then we'll be ready to go.
I go in.
It's okay.
Why do I feel I'm not gonna get points on stupidly undershooting this?
We shall find out.
Thank you, thank you, Vicente, for not saying I'm
this is
coming.
going to be way harder for me than usual episodes because there's so many entries.
I was writing. I wasn't thinking what was I saying.
Okay.
I can't send it to here.
On Discord?
So the chat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
All right. The anticipation is
request.
killing me. Oh! I see.
Send your friend request. Yeah.
Oh, we weren't friends. Oh, now I feel sad. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Accepted.
Yes.
There you go.
We are
Okay.
no friends. We are friends.
All right, I've got them all. So, oh wow. Okay, these are interesting. All of these are interesting. So, I'm going to start here with main story. So, main story on this one is 11 hours. And so what I've received here... Yeah, so...
I remember the game
Really?
being awfully long.
Yeah, this thing got 4
I thought
hours.
this game was super short.
Aaron said 40
No,
hours. Paula said 2 hours. And Rick said 10 hours.
No, I remember the game was very long.
So point
Okay,
to point to
the
Rick.
points here.
All right, point to Rick. 12. Okay, so
Oh
the
my
next one
God.
here, Rick has said for main plus, Rick has said 12 hours. Paula has said 2 hours and 30 minutes. Aaron has said 50 hours. And
Of course, it
Vicente
was long.
Vicente said 5 hours. So, oh my God. Rick wins this one. It's 13 hours. So now Rick and I are tied currently in points right now. Okay. Here we come for completionist, though. This one's interesting. So, Vicente said 6 hours. Aaron has said 120 hours. Damn, that's a big boy game.
Holy.
Paula said 3 hours, and Rick has said 18 hours.
My normal main.
You're all just so wildly off. The
Okay.
actual number is 39 and a half hours. So,
My normal
realised
main is
2
closer
seconds too
than
late, I missed the
the.
opportunity to
Whoa.
take over 9,000.
yeah, so...
I remember it was so long. Why?
Rick, it looks like
I was
you-
awful at the game.
Rick, you skirted ahead of me. You're at 14 now.
Oh, okay.
But it looks like you will not be winning extra points because what we have here for the emulations, Rick has said 7, which I'll tell you right now is very off. Paula has said
One for each of
24.
the Dragon Balls, lol.
Yeah, Paula said 24. Aaron
Oh my
said
God.
40. And
Oh my God.
Visa said 2,000.
Which
Which I'm just going to say this now. Only 179 people. Only 179 people have said that they've beaten this on How Long to Beat. But the actual answer is 20, which means, Paula, you get 2 points. But that does mean that
But
at the end of the
still,
day, Rick has
wins.
come ahead at the top with 14. Me trailing close behind with 13 and Paula with 7, which means Rick gets to choose a theme, which who knows, we'll find out next episode what that theme is, for us to try out.
I thought it was a more popular game.
Yeah. So we'll find out what Rick's decided. Will he get us to play Vita games? Will he get us to play Rocket League or
13
something? I
Sentinels
don't
I can
know.
swim again.
Well, we already played it.
Maybe I want you to play
You're
again.
going to play
Maybe
Ghost
both
Fury,
of us
aren't you?
switch
Oh, I'm
for.
sorry. My PS4 exploded. All right, and that's it for everybody.
It's on the Switch, yeah. No excuse.
Yeah, there is. I'm
You're
not buying
you're
that
not
game
going to
again.
play.
No. I'll be a little bit more creative.
You're
Yeah,
not going
there
to
we
play Dragon Ball Beast Fury, of course.
So that means next time we come back, we're going to do a whole new section, a whole new thing. So we'll find out what that is. Thanks for tuning in to this big old long episode. Thank you both for coming out and joining us. Hopefully we'll have you back again to do maybe a New Game Plus on story stuff more, because we only touched the surface.
There's no second without a third.
Toodaloo, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.